when you were growing up, did you guys celebrate any like Japanese holidays or customs?
Not in the camps. Did anybody tell you what the conditions are like in the camps?
Oh yeah.
You had one big mess hall. First time I ever had sauerkraut, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was, among other things. And you didn't eat with your family necessarily.
Right.
You know, you just ate with your friends and things of that sort. Your family unit went to hell, frankly.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was good in the sense that they built their own schools out of mud and straw and things of that sort. Beautiful schools and things, sort of soon as possible. Yeah. When you're 12 years old, you don't see the hardship.
Oh, right.
You have friends to play with, join the Boy Scouts and take trips down to the Colorado River, go fishing, things of that sort. It was a fun time for young kids like us. The parents, however, were different because, like my dad, I think he was being paid $16 a month. Professionals like doctors would be paid $19 a month. That's nonsense. So my dad used to go out, get a permit to go out to farm in Colorado and Wyoming, sugar beeting. You know what sugar beets are? It's cold in hell at the time those things come out. Anyway, so that's why we didn't stay in camp very long. I don't think we were out by the second year. Some people stayed until the war was over. That was in 45.
Okay. So I guess, like, what's the earliest memory you have as a kid growing up?
Third year.
Third year? Okay.
Yeah. I can remember farming, but I wasn't farming. I was too young.
Yeah, so you were playing
Yeah.
and having fun. Okay.
But my dad, when we were in Japan, one of his greatest possessions they still had, he was very proud of, was he was standing in the Los Feliz area, really sort of mansion area at that time, Los Feliz was. And he has a water hose in his hand, standing next to a man, and that man happened to be Jack Dempsey, the world heavyweight champion of the world. He was the gardener for him. That was while we were in Japan in the early 30s, 1930. That's the greatest thing that he ever had. He prized that damn photo. I don't know who the hell has the photograph now. But he always had a job. He sent the whole family to Japan, which took money. It's sort of strange in one sense that I can remember from 1929 to about 1939, 38 maybe. It was the Depression years. I can remember the Okies coming out in old cars and things that started camping out, things of that sort. And those were hard times. But 1937, I can remember that we had a brand new Chevrolet, four-door sedan. 1939 or 1941, we had a Fleetwood Chevrolet, the best money you can buy. I can't remember being. The idea of being poor didn't ever occur to me. Because farming, you always had something to eat, but you raised them. And when it comes to automobile, come to think, when you think back, we always had new cars. Well, you don't buy new cars unless you have some money with it, even during the Depression. So I don't know whether or not we really went through a depression because of the efforts of my dad. My dad, when we went to the Chervella area, there was just raw land. He built a house, engineered the pump system, for instance, for the water, had a water tank so that we had high pressure water, and we had inside toilets. This is way back in the 30s.
Wow.
We had all the comforts of home, like we were living in a city, for Christ's sake. So I didn't feel deprived, so I don't know what it is to be poor in that one sense, really.
Wow, your parents sound like very hardworking.
Well, my dad was very hard worker, yeah.
And then your mom was more of like a homemaker? Or?
Well, you know, when you're a farmer's wife, you're working out in the fields too, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But the extra thing is you had to come home and work in the sense of cooking and all that business.
Yeah.
But as the youngest, you don't do anything. And that's the way I grew up, really.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway.
Okay. So then, did your parents ever, did they want to like celebrate, like, for example, Japanese New Year, like make Japanese
But
food?
when we moved here
Uh-huh.
from Colorado, my sister from Chicago's husband was an architect. He designed 2 homes on the 5-acre piece that we had. Beautiful homes. And my dad was farming at that point in Gobo. And every every New Year's, my mom had food, Japanese food, laid on tables. And so the whole family plus all of her friends would be there. And at that time, I was old enough to drink sake, so I would always go over, and one of my daughters would come with me, so they could drive me home. Yes, we had that type of things.
Okay. Well, good.
I can also remember families getting together in our backyard making mochi. My dad had out of a barrel, put cement in it, and man, I can still remember my brother flipping the dough with water and all that business. And we had the pound with big steaks with big wooden things on it.
Wow.
Did all of that. And we were doing 100-pound sacks. We were just doing 25-pound sacks. So we went through all of that business.
Do you know around what year that was too?
Well, I was going to high school in 1945. We moved out here from Colorado December of 45. That's when the war was over, and what was it, in August? We were out here by December 45. I don't know whether we did anything too much on that New Year's, but I think every year after that.
You made mochi and...
Oh yeah, and all the good things.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I know, like, especially in this area, there's like different hubs. Like Little Tokyo is a big Japanese community. Did you guys happen to, was there any place that you guys all went to, like, to find that like Japanese markets?
No, let me. I can remember from the 30s. Whenever we went to a wedding or to a funeral, it was always to a Chinese restaurant.
Okay.
Did you know that was still doing to this day? That happens still to this day. Now the older people, I don't know what the younger people are doing.
And then those Chinese restaurants, they're just all around the area, or was there a specific one that you guys went to, and like which area?
Well, in the 30s, we were still in Terabella area. I can't remember exactly where we went. Oh, my uncle, Fred Oda's father, had a Chinese restaurant right across the street from the movie studios in Hollywood. I can remember going there. During after we moved here to the Chino area, I remember going to the Chinese restaurant in Little Tokyo. When my father died in '86, the reception was in a little Chinese restaurant on the other side of Kellogg Hill that just closed about a year and a half ago. They were in Atlantic Boulevard, I think, and they moved out here. And when my mother died, we had a reception there.
Okay. So then when...
But it had to be Cantonese food.
Oh, okay. Okay. So when you were growing up too, what kind of food did your parents make? Do you remember?
At home?
Yeah.
All Japanese food.
All Japanese.
For a long time, I had to have rice at least for dinner.
Wow.
It's only rather recent, in the last couple of years, that when my wife really started goofing off a little bit. See, all our friends, our white friends at our age, the mothers or the wives stopped cooking. Really,
Yeah.
they just stopped cooking.
So you guys go out to eat more now?
No, she still cooks.
Oh.
I think she's about the only one that I know that cooks, but we don't. She doesn't cook rice all the time.
So all the food that you ate when you were younger, your parents grew. Is that correct? They grew all their own
Mostly.
vegetables.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Couldn't grow the fish
Right.
or the meat type of thing.
Uh-huh.
You buy your tofu at the grocery store. There was a grocery chain, American grocery. I don't know whether it was Albertson or what. In Rancho Cucamonga area, they carried the Japanese food for whatever reason. Long time, but most of the time when we need to, we were going downtown, so Tokyo area.
Oh, to buy.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's where you buy your rice and everything.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So around what year did you enlist, or were you drafted?
I was going to UCLA and I had 180 units. I was trying to avoid the draft. So finally they said to me, but my draft board was in San Bernardino County, because we lived in San Bernardino County. Chino's in San Bernardino County. They said, you have to go in. We're going to make you go in. But we'll give you a choice between September or November or something as to when to go in. So I think I went in about October. I think boot camp was about 3 months.
Okay. And I think you mentioned before you were 17. Is that correct? At that time?
No, I graduated from high school. I just turned 17.
Okay.
I didn't go into the Army until I was already I had gone through Chaffey College, and I already had about a total of 180 units. You only need 120.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a lot of units.
Yeah.
Okay. So what did you do during the Korean War? What was your role?
When you come out of the training camp, what we call boot camp, when you're in there, you're a recruit. When you come in, you don't have any stripes or anything. You're just you're a private, I guess. I went on in a company that was already online at the time. In other words, the war was still going on. I was an infantryman. I wasn't an officer. I didn't go to officer school or anything. By July 3rd, by July of 1953, I must have gotten to Korea early part of that year. I didn't go into the Army till 52, I think. War started in 1950. So I was already 22 years of age. And it turns out that when I was online, I was one of the older ones. There were people as old as 16 years of age, things of that sort. People at that age, when they're out there by themselves guarding or things of that sort, they cry. And all of a sudden you find out how old they are. Anyway, I was one of the older ones. So I got my stripes real quick, like, and regularly, so that by July of 1953, I was already a sergeant first class, which is 3 up and 2 down. That's a sergeant first class.
So what were some of your tasks during this time? Like, what did you have to do in Korea?
You went to war.
Oh, were you in combat?
Yes. You know what? When you earn what they call an infantry combat badge, you can only do that while you're in the war, so to speak,
Oh, okay.
where you actually, in fact, see combat.
Oh.
People shoot at you, and you shoot at them, type of thing. So I was there long enough for that before the armistice was declared. And I was there after the armistice. We were still there. We came off a line and went to the Seoul area, north of Seoul, to the area which now divides the two Koreas. And they let me come back because I said I want to go back to school, to UCLA. They brought me back, and I had to go to a camp. It was in the state of Washington, south of the airport, where the airport is now. I can't remember the name of the camp there. And I was there for during the summer months. But they let me go in time to get into school, and the school started in September.
Okay.
So I think I started school again in '54.
Okay.
I think. He had to be because I was in school at UCLA for a year, and then from there I went to Hastings College of Law in San Francisco in '55.
Okay. Did you so you transferred to Hastings, or did you?
I'm sorry?
Did you transfer to Hastings College, or did you graduate from UCLA?
I graduated from UCLA
Okay.
and I went to Hastings and started in September '55.
Oh.
It's 3 years school, so I graduated in '58. Started practice in January of '56, '58, '59. So I was in private practice for 21 years when I was appointed by Governor Brown, in fact, really, in March of 1980.
Okay. So I guess just going back a little bit, is there one specific memory that you have during the Korean War that you want to share, or is there one thing that you remember, or is it kind of just all a distant memory?
No, nothing.
Okay. So to this day, who do you keep in touch with the most from your days growing up? Is there? You mentioned before that.
Well, when do you think I grew up? What age group are you talking?
I was just wondering,
Some people never grow up.
right. I guess I just wanted to see, you mentioned before, a lot of the families that you grew up with in Chino, you still keep in touch with today. Are they? Would you say, or would you say they're mostly your closest friends right now, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've probably known them for over 60 years at least, yeah.
Okay. And then,
Of course, one died recently.
So in your lifetime, did you experience any racial discrimination growing up?
Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Did you suffer any? That's your age?
Not really. But I grew up in a mostly Asian area. I think that would be why. Yeah. But I guess being the minority, it's when you're more.
When they allowed us to go out of camp, I was only maybe 14, maybe. I can't remember how old I was at the time. By that time, you had that something looked like a little card, a cellophane type of thing with your picture on it, and they put in there your name and an area in which you're entitled to be in. I mean, there's so many miles of it. So you had sort of a passport, although you're a citizen. You're thinking, why do I have to have this to get out of camp to go someplace else? I I didn't really feel any discrimination from the standpoint of people calling me a Jap or things of that sort when I was growing up at school, as an example, not even in Chino. Like I told you, in Chino High School, I was treated as if I was a white man. I wasn't treated like a Mexican.
Like you mentioned in Chino, there are a lot of white Mexican groups, and you mentioned that you get along with both of them
Yes.
pretty well.
We were treated real well by the white people, and most of our friends were white people. But we had Mexican people in our grades that I still talk to this day, in my own class. You know, so, and they treated us well.
Also, I wanted to know, how did you get along with other Asian Americans during that time?
Well, what little they did have, yeah, it was fine.
Okay, yeah. And you mentioned that it was those two Japanese families, that's correct? Were there any
At least
other-
that. Oh yeah, there was more than that.
Oh, okay. And then, were there other ethnic groups, like Asian groups there too, like Chinese, maybe?
No Chinese.
Okay.
When we were farming in the Terabella area, our workers were primarily Filipinos, and they're all male, hardworking people, big gamblers, and one or two had white women. But they lived but my dad built a house down. We were on top of a hill. They were down below. It was a huge house that he built. Kitchen was separate, but the rest of it was like a barrack. And so to get privacy, they hung up ropes and put blankets up, things of that sort. That's the people with the women there. And I can always remember they ate goat. They cooked goat over fireplaces. They invited me one time to see what they do.
Uh-huh.
But that's the only different type of people that I met when I was growing up, really.
Okay. So a lot of...
I gave you an example of people being kind to us. When we were in Talavera, the war started. We moved with all of our furniture and stuff to that Talavera area, everything that we had in the Torrance area. So when they said, you have to go to camp, what did we do with all of our stuff? Well, there was a family called Swensky that I was going to school with at Terabella. I was still in grammar school at one time. We stored all of our things at their house. They had a big, huge barn area. And after the war, when we said we were back, they said, come get your stuff, we still have it. Things of that sort happened. And to this day, there's a Swensky, we call him, he changed his name to Swin, lives in Bakersfield. Every year he calls me.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
All those years. It's amazing, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really amazing.
Okay. Actually, I just remembered a question I had. When your family was farming,
Where?
in Chino, the
Okay.
other farmers in that area, were they mostly Japanese too, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Were there a lot of Japanese
Yeah,
farmers?
they were raising strawberries primarily.
Oh, okay. So your family was.
And they were there from before the war. See, there were Japanese people there before the war.
Oh, okay. So
In
then-
fact, like the Fujiwara and the Ito family their family came in 1922. Do you know where the prison is, the men's prison in Chino?
No.
Oh, okay. Where have you been living all this time?
Oh, I'm from Hacienda Heights.
Well, hell, that's not that so far. You never
Yeah.
been to Chino?
I have, like, I drove through it, but I'm not too familiar with, like, the area.
You never seen the prison?
No,
It's on the south part of Chino.
Oh, okay. Border, like, Tustin area, that area,
No. Just a few miles down the road from the city.
or? Oh, okay.
He's been there. I don't know how long he's been there. Anyway, what the hell I was going to say about that damn place. When I was a judge, I remember going there and taking my wife because they had a big function and they wanted the judges to be there or something, and so I remember taking my wife there. That whole area has grown up to be pretty nice.
Yeah, she doesn't.
And the prison is still there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you met, previously you mentioned that you have 2 kids, right? A son and a daughter.
I have a girl, boy, girl.
Okay. So then, do you practice like Japanese customs with them? Like, do you guys do mochitsuki, the mochi pounding, or? Okay. So what are?
They don't speak Japanese.
Oh, that's okay.
They went to Japanese school here.
Oh, okay.
They hated it because we had to bring him here on a Saturday, if I recall.
Right. Yeah. So ever since then, they're like, no more.
And I think the church was in a little building in the back someplace.
Yes.
Anyway.
Okay. So what are they doing right now? What are their careers?
My oldest one is a girl. She is single, never got married. She must be around 57. She's been teaching now for about 29 years in Orange County. She was a school teacher of the year, I think, about 8 years ago or something of that sort. She's been teaching. She was teaching combinations 4th and 5th, but now I think she only does 4th. And she's a tough ass woman from my standpoint, because I find out early on that she gave homework to 4th graders, and she will call the parents on Sunday on the evening to see whether or not they did their homework. I said, "You do what?" And yet she's had, since she's been teaching so there so damn long, she's gone to their weddings after they gone, and most of them are from an sort of affluent type area. They all went to USC. And after, as she gone to their graduations from college to marriages, and she says she has quite a few students that she taught in the 4th grade who became teachers.
Wow.
And still live in that general area.
Okay.
Yeah, so she still teaches. My son is the only one that is married and lives in Maine. He and his wife went there maybe about 10 years ago, I think. No children. And the youngest one is now presently living with us. And she was married, living in the Beverly Hills area at one time. Do you know LA? Do you know the Bellevue Wilshire Hotel on Wilshire Boulevard?
Yes.
That's where I had her wedding, and I was a judge at the time, and I did the wedding. Yeah.
Wow.
But she got a divorce. No children, so we don't have any grandchildren.
Okay.
We have a grandson who had a baby just not too long ago. Orange County.
Okay. So, you mentioned before you were a judge. What are you doing right now? Now that you're retired.
Well, other than what I'm doing on that application for judgeship type of thing. Well, let me put it this way: from early 70s, I've been a hunter.
Oh, okay.
And then early on, I met some people in Colorado. And I've been hunting elk and going to Iowa and to North Dakota to go pheasant hunting, things of that sort. So, since I can't walk very well anymore, I still go hunt. I still go every Wednesday and Saturday to go skeet shooting over here on Rosemead Boulevard in 60. Do you ever travel that way?
Rosemead, yeah.
It's called Video Narrows.
Oh yeah, I drive by there all the time.
Okay. You know where Rosemead Boulevard is? There's a road that goes right across the Highway 60. It's on the southwest corner.
Oh.
There's a bunch of trees. You can't see it. But that's where the sporting clays section is. But there's buildings and fields on the other side where the skeet trap shooting is. You've never been in there, have you? You can't see it from the street, really.
Yeah, I do know what you're talking. There's a lot of trees.
Okay, across the street is a park and a little lake and things of that sort where a lot of people go.
I do remember. I do know where the lake is, though.
Okay.
But I've never seen. Yeah, I've never been in that area. But I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
You can see it off the freeway.
Yeah, that's where I go.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, I didn't know they had hunting there.
No, it's not hunting. It's,
Oh, it's just
shooting.
Shooting.
You
Okay.
shoot little targets like this.
Oh, okay.
Houses on both ends that throws things out and you shoot at them.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's skeet shooting.
Oh.
Trap shooting is you're shooting straight out. Birds are going like this, and there's little pellets, so the disc like this made out of clay.
Uh-huh.
And you know you hit them because they break apart when you hit it.
Uh-huh. Oh.
That's what it's like.
Okay.
It's a sport. It's sort of an expensive sport, but you got to do something.
Yeah, it's true. And so where you're living right now in Pomona, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then how long
We
have you
moved. We lived in Claremont,
Uh-huh.
and my private practice was in Pomona. So I said I should go down to Pomona where I'm making my living. So we've been living in this house since 1961.
Oh, okay.
So whenever my wife gets pissed off at me, she'll tell her friends we're the only guys, she used a different word for that anyway, that ever moved from Claremont to Pomona. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think we're just about finishing up the interview. So we'll do a couple like closing questions and then we'll wrap it up. So I guess right now, are you still involved with like the Japanese American community? Do you go to Little Tokyo or do anything like that?
You know that little grocery store on Azusa Avenue
Yes,
to the south?
Tokyo Central. Used to be Manukai, but
Yeah, it used to be. Well, it just changed last year, 2 years ago maybe.
Uh-huh.
We do our shopping for New Year's and stuff like that.
Okay, good.
We don't go that often, but maybe about 3-4 times a year.
Okay. Uh-huh.
I like it better now than when it was Manukai.
Yeah, it's pretty new now, huh?
Yeah, they have more stuff
Yeah. Uh-huh.
and fresher, I think. Really.
Yeah.
Well, anyway,
Do you
what
guys,
else?
Do you guys still do you guys make ozoni for New Year's?
She does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We always go out on New Year's. But we try to get back. We don't always stay until midnight.
Oh, okay.
And we'll have that bowl of that mochi and all kind of stuff inside of it.
Yeah. Okay.
She still makes that.
And then did you ever practice like put the dolls out for Girls' Day or anything like that? The tier?
No.
Oh, okay. So the other thing I want to ask, are there any other like Japanese organizations you're involved with or associated?
In the old days, when I was an attorney, there was a Japanese lawyers club type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Japanese American club.
Oh, okay.
It's not a club; it's a bar association.
Oh, okay. Is it the Japanese American Bar Association? Is
And
that the-
primarily it was in downtown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see. So you're part of Java, I think is what it's called.
Well, I don't know what it's called anymore. I was never active. I just paid my dues.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. And then, are there any other organizations that you're involved with? I know, like, some families are involved with temple or church or anything.
You know, my folks were Buddhist.
Okay.
And my wife is still a Buddhist. She has a Japanese name and all that business for when you die and all that business. But I never felt that I was ever a Buddhist, other than the fact that my folks are. And my wife's still a Buddhist. So she says when I die, for instance, she's going to bring a bonsai.
Oh, okay.
But other than that, no, I don't come to church.
Okay.
I think we attended 1 or 2 times here after they built it in here.
Right. Yeah. Does your wife go to like which temple does she go to? Or does
She does.
Oh, she doesn't. Okay.
In Colorado, she was raised in Colorado, just north of Denver. Halfway between Greeley and Denver, there's a little town called Fort Lupton, just exactly halfway between Greeley and Denver. They have a Buddhist church there, and they have inside of it, where the bonsai is and all that thing, the background, probably the most fancy damn thing you'll ever find in any damn church, including those in LA. Through funds generated by the farmers, Japanese farmers in that area.
Wow.
There must be, I said, my God, where they get all that gold? And so she was active because when she was a kid, the whole family went there. So when everybody was still alive, when we went to Colorado, that's where we go. For her, I think her brothers and her sisters, they were at that church. And they bring, they cook. They have a kitchen and they cook. They brought food and all that business. But I couldn't understand what they were saying when they were chanting. So. And they were Japanese. And although there was one bonsan that spoke English, and he would interpret it sometimes. So, but I didn't want to go someplace where I didn't understand what that was happening. So,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not that fluent anymore. My mom died in 1996, so I don't have anybody to speak Japanese to. So, you don't use something like that, you just sort of seem to forget it.
Would you say you were fluent like when you were younger? Were you speaking?
Well, I had to speak to my parents.
Right. So you were speaking Japanese at your home.
Yeah.
All the time. Okay.
And my folks never spoke English, although they understood it, but they would never speak it to us.
Oh, okay. So looking back at your time, like growing up, going to camp, coming back, and then going to war, like what is your overall feeling about, like how do you feel about that time? Was it a good time? Was it that's just what happened kind of thing? Do you have any opinions about it, or?
Well, I got married.
Uh-huh.
But for the war, I've always thought it this way, but for the war, I would have never met my wife. You think about that aspect of it, and you think, well, maybe the war was good. Yeah. So I have no regrets from that standpoint.
Okay.
I never had any problems when the war started. I didn't have the type of thing that happened to a lot of people, where people called you Japs and things of that sort.
Right.
I didn't go through too much of that aspect of it. Although, let me put it this way, when I first started practicing law in Pomona, that's 1959, when I would pick a jury, I would always ask members of the jury that's going to be the jury as to whether or not they had any sons that went to war in the Pacific. Why? Because of the Japanese War.
Oh, right.
Because I didn't want anybody that would be prejudiced, in a sense, not towards me, but towards my client, just because I'm Japanese. So you had to be very careful in those days how you picked a church. So it affected me in that sense. But other than that, personally, I didn't have any problems.
Did you find, like, did people react strongly to that? Like, if,
Well, let's suppose that that during the war in the Pacific, you lost a son.
right,
I don't give a shit what they say. There has to be some resentment.
right.
There has to be. So anyway, you wanted to find out about it. At least because you're representing a person that should have a fair jury. You try to get one at least that way.
Right, yeah.
Anything else?
The other thing I want to ask before I forget, so how did you and your wife meet? I don't think we
Huh?
ever, how did you and your wife meet? I don't think we ever talked about that.
We kid about it, really.
Okay.
To get my way through college, UCLA as an example, and the college is Chaffey College. I earned my way by having what they call a semi-trailer, and I would pick up, and this is through the efforts of my brother. He had the contact. I would pick up corn, cabbage, things of that sort, from the farmers in the Chino area. And I would take them to a certain, in this case, 9th Street market that we knew by the name of Morita, who then will get rid of it. But they had to be competitive with everybody else because otherwise I couldn't get it from the farmers. What I would charge them to pick it up and take it to the market. So I was earning money to go to school through that fashion, and I did that for a long time through junior college and also college. And I learned to drive a truck, so even after I came out waiting for my bar result, I still drove a truck for other companies, things of that sort. I became a union member. Things of that sort, yeah. Anyway, you learn to do things that you have to do. And it was a strange thing because my dad would not help me with my college efforts. And I think I'm the only one in my family that went through college and all sorts of professional school. It just turned out that way. Although my sisters married professionals,
Oh, okay.
every one of them. One an architect, one became a dentist, the other one was an engineer, and they all were doing very well. So.
Oh, okay. And then, so did your sisters, did they marry Japanese men? It sounded like.
No, not necessarily. Well, all my older sisters did. The 3 older sisters. My youngest one married a Mexican.
Oh, okay.
Not just one. She got a divorce from one and then married a second one and then had a child by that one.
Oh, okay. Did you guys ever have like huge family reunions where everyone from different parts of the country come and meet together?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then did those take?
That's only when my mother was still alive. When my dad and mother was, naturally, but when my mother was sort of the anchor,
Right.
so we would all gather at her house.
Oh, okay.
To this day, on New Year's, my brother's family still have that type of thing. They have Japanese food for everybody. So we sort of, if you want to, you can gather there.
Oh, okay.
So that family still does it. So I finally, since I couldn't keep up with them, I had my oldest niece, and she's in her 70s now, write out and type out for me everybody's name, where they live, what they're doing, so that I could always read it before I go over there and know what the hell is happening. So anyway,
Okay.
they still they still gather. Their whole family gathers.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
I think it's not the influence of my brother, because he died early on,
Uh-huh.
but his wife, who I consider to be my sister,
Oh, right. Uh-huh.
she trained him right.
Oh, okay.
They did very well. One lives in Arkansas and does very well at our university, I think, doing something. And she had a bunch of children. One of them, in those days at least, went to school to become a veterinarian. In those days, it was harder to get into vet school than into med school.
Oh,
And she's
wow.
done very well. So they all gather. But they're at the age now where I say I think you should start thinking of smelling the roses. And I think they're going to. So their family, that side of the family, are so have a lot of food for New Year's and things like that sort.
Oh, okay.
No drinking, just beer, no sake.
Okay. Oh, okay. So I guess we're just about finished. Is there anything that you want to add to this interview before we end, or?
No, nothing.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting us interview you.
Well, it's nice meeting you.
Yeah, nice meeting you too.
You should travel around and look around where you are, because you're here, but you should know something about Chino. You should know something about Chino Hill,
Right.
Claremont. Do you go to Claremont?
No, not in a long time. Yeah, but it's so close. But
I know that.
yeah.
Claremont should be interesting for you.
Oh.
Upland is pretty nice too. But the Claremont area is real close to you,
Yeah.
and it's a college town.
Oh, Claremont.
Good
College.
places to eat. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's called Pomona colleges with separate colleges, like Pinter College and things like that. So
Uh-huh.
it's a nice section area.
Okay.
But get to know your place, so when people ask you a question, you're not a stranger.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
So what was your major in college?